I can't help but think when I hear this, though, that I do wish that, personally, I'm still debating. I'm listening to what you're saying and thinking, I'm still debating. I personally believe that compassion can be instilled in people. It's just a longer process. And I think consciousness can be, instilled in people. The reason I say that is because otherwise we're stuck as a society. If these things cannot be given to people, I am asking, what are the ways you think, if a CNA comes to the place that they are as the higher calling through compassion and a spiritual calling almost, then what are the ways? That's what I was trying to drive at. What are the ways that we get to that compassion? How do we impart that compassion? How do we build that? Yours might have been a family experience and what you were saying with your grandma.
I know another way. I'm thinking the only other way for me you can come to that is by being in a situation where you were needy. And then
I like that. I like that a lot.
You were needy. And I remember once I was so sick and I was in the hospital. I think I got my gallbladder removed and I was so sick. Couldn't open my eyes, anything. But I heard a voice. Don't worry, you'll be okay. And she rubbed my back and I remember the touch. I remember her voice. And I was like, I love her so much because there's no one else helping me. I'm getting teary-eyed. But I remember hearing that angel voice. It's okay, don't worry. And I felt like I was at my lowest because, you're doing things that you normally don't want anyone to see or, be around you. And it's okay. She's not judging me and she's still helping me and stuff. And I think if you're in a position like that, you can do it.
I agree with that. You just reminded me of something that I believe for myself. I believe very strongly. I believe that being humble is where a lot of this stuff comes from, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And illness, there's nothing that
humbles you more
than physical or mental burdens, illness over time. It's amazing because you guys have tapped into something that's pretty incredible, that you're coming by way of a humility. And that's where the compassion is born. I'm wondering if that's the
of course.
That's the origin.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yes, it is.
Of course.
Yes, it is. Because I've seen it in patients also. And, she brought up the race thing. I've seen where I've had patients where they start out by calling me the N-word. Yeah. And by the time I'm done caring for them, I'm sorry. And after that, we're best friends. They're looking so forward to seeing me come and take care of them. So it does have a lot to do with what's inside.
A humbling effect where they realize that, what, this person is giving selflessly to me and I didn't behave well. It's good that they had the consciousness to be aware of that too.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't because of certain situations they're in, dementia, whatever, and they don't realize what they're doing. But you know what? It's okay.
Yeah.
I don't care. And the women I work with, they don't care. It's okay. You make a joke.
I don't get
for them.
offended from that stuff, especially if they have dementia. I just don't. Oh, is that Mike?
Yeah.
I did hear it. I was like, oh, that sounds like
that
a
was
merry-go-round. Well, no,
Okay.
we'll just tap back into that. So, go.
What was I saying?
Go ahead. You were talking about that.
Compassion.
The compassion.
And being humble.
Yeah.
Humble.
Being humble. What did we miss?
Yeah.
So, Kim, you were talking about the fact that you may come into something where patients are actually being really rude to you.
Yeah.
Rude, outright rude. And then from there.
Yeah, but I'd say I don't take that personally. For some, I don't. Because if you do, you'll just do all kinds of things and just, I'm not even taking care of you. I'm not even, you just don't take it personally. I know I'm here to do something and I know when I leave, you're going to feel really good. And that's what I'm there for.
You all are describing what's actually probably, I'm thinking, a mantra for the world. This is going to sound a little strange, but I was thinking how to approach people, not take offense when you are. It's almost such a spiritual message. putting your feelings of being offended aside, even though you're not being talked to or treated in a nice way, but trying to still give out of compassion and love because you actually are humble enough to do that.
And one thing I learned too, and that helps me, is that pain is something that makes you go crazy.
That's true.
And when you're in pain or discomfort and you don't, even when you have dementia, you don't know where you are, you don't know if you're coming, you're going, you'll say or do anything.
Illness impacts people in a crazy way. That's something that I as a physician, have a lot of compassion for. I don't like when patients are in tremendous pain, but it's, things are being under-recognized. I agree with you. Anyone who's been in pain, I've been there. Anyone who's been in pain, you're not in your right mind. And it puts an edge on everything. And it makes you not tolerant or not able to understand others in the same way. And people expect the same from you.
Exactly.
And you're like this. I think that's important also with the end of life, is to understand that these patients are not the same as they were also.
I would like to say, we're talking about the end of life. We have no clue
when that time is.
What it feels like. Like, I can't stress enough to be in their shoes. Not one little piece of idea. We have none. We're ignorant to the core. They are in it. If I, knowing who I am, was given a sentence like that, I wouldn't give a flying cannoli who I say what to, when, and why. I will feel I have the right. You're not where I am. You don't know. So imagine not just getting a sentence, but being at that stage that you can't do anything for yourself. You're moaning, you're groaning, you're whatever. How could you judge or mistreat someone who is in that position? Like, how could you even justify feeling angry, upset with a person who is dying? You have the privilege of being there. It's a privilege. At the most important stage in anyone's life, to me, it's not when you're born, it's when you're going. And I don't know why I feel that way, but I do. It's when you're leaving, because you don't want to leave. They didn't want to go, but they're there and they're going. And for someone to hold your hand or to take care of you physically and tell you sweet things like I always do, my patients and stuff, and to be there at my worst of the worst, my God, that's a privilege. So how could you even see that as being angry, upset, or feel any kind of way?
That's where this education comes in. I'll tell you also, you're speaking that way will help families who listen to say, do you need tissue?
Yeah, I also
will help
take
families.
the whole box.
I know.
Will help families to say that, these legacies start earlier. I still maintain that. They start earlier, meaning it cannot be at the end when there are built up resentments and bad situations between family members. It needs to start earlier, that you rectify, that you talk, that you find the compassion, find the humility to make sure that your relationships are as intact as possible. This is not easy stuff. We're all part of this. We're all, myself included, where you go, yeah, I'm struggling with this relationship, or I could do a lot better with this one. And it takes that humility to go, how do I get there? Can I improve that? Because, as you said, at the end, it is the end. And who's going to be there when you're on your way out and we don't know where we're heading to? I agree with that.
And for us who are healthy and who are in the field, you see life so different. I laugh every day, I smile every day, because I don't know what's going on inside my body and what could happen tomorrow. So it changes your world. It changes your whole world.
It does. It gives you a new lease on life.
It's
to
different.
just breathe and more, enjoy yourself, enjoy every moment.
And life is short.
And life is so short.
When you're taking care of someone who's in their 40s or 50s,
or younger too. I'm
Or
going to ask
younger.
you a question about, because we talked a little bit about the background of CNAs, just to give the education also. Where do CNAs practice? I wanted to give that information also, and that's important for people who don't know. You know, end of life, so we're talking hospice. This is a hospice program, but CNAs are valuable all across the board. So where is that practice seen, just to give that education?
Long term.
We everywhere.
Long term.
Long term.
Long-term.
Assistant living.
Assistant living, yeah.
Nursing homes.
Homes.
Rehabs.
Homes.
Homes.
Private residential.
I mean,
Hospitals.
Hospitals too, yeah. And talking about the hospice portion of it, do you all prefer? You sound like that is very, very meaningful to you. The hospice practice in the hospice setting, because that's really what we're talking about today. Is kind of giving education about that. Do you all have a preference? I mean, you all do hospice CNA work.
In a heartbeat.
I love it.
hospice.
I
I
love
love
it.
the experience.
Well, tell
I
me
love
what-
the
yeah, go ahead.
interactions with family. I worked at DFACS as an investigator in CPS. Just imagine closing your eyes and having your baby at 6 o'clock in the morning, and at 12 o'clock the state has custody. That's the most hurtful feelings you can ever have in your body. And I had to go through that. So once I went through that process, I stepped away. I was like, this is not for me. I'd rather get there, be with you, give you comfort while you transition on to the next phase in life. I don't want to be the reason why your family is torn apart.
Exactly.
So that's how I rationalize with being a hospice CNA.
Hospice has that meaning for you. Yeah, it's more positive. What about you, Natasha and Kim? What about you for why? I heard a lot of why, but more is welcome if there's a reason that you.
I was going to say my passion is hospice.
Yeah.
Nothing else will do for me.
Yours is even honestly even a higher calling, because hospice in and of itself, I feel, is a pretty high calling for people. And then adding a CNA aspect to it, or the CNA basis, and adding the hospice aspect makes it very spiritual. It makes it very spiritual. Dealing with death and dying, anyone who gravitates towards that, there's something very particular. I know why I gravitate towards it, and it's a very powerful spiritual reason.
There's another thing I would like to put out there. CNAs are not, it's entry-level nursing, I understand, but it's not because they're stupid or they can't learn. It's because
They choose to do that.
They choose to do that, but it's also because sometimes they're businesswomen. They have other goals. They have other things. They kind of entered it late in life, because I am pretty sure most of the CNAs I know would have been awesome doctors
Nurses.
and nurses. And it's not because they don't want to. It's just because they have different callings as well. Like me, I love business. Oh my God, I love business. But to me, to sit in a classroom and go through what the nurses do to get to that stage, that don't mean I don't see what they do and I don't know what they do. I know a lot.
You're so right. Because
We
in the
know a
past
lot.
2 years, I've enrolled in nursing school twice, and I was like, nah,
The time it's going to
life, and the time it's gonna take. I'd rather just do this because I care. I love
flexible.
this. This is flexible, and I love this.
What was prompting you to enter in the nursing?
Because
To-
this
to-
way, I think that I would have impacted lives more. You know, you come up on a lot of nurses. They come and they ask you little questions, and they might, write down stuff. You don't see much compassion.
No.
They're very quick. They're very precise. They're very precise. They're very no bedside manner, to make
At
it
all.
short. None at all.
Not at all.
And I just always told myself that
Because
I
they're
have
in a
a
different
tiny bit
field.
of medical knowledge from being, not a lot as a nurse, from being a medical assistant. And I was like, if I could just do that, I would be the best nurse ever, because I would come with compassion. I wouldn't be so short and rude, and I would make an impact.
They become more of a pencil pusher. You have to know what is good for you. You know what I mean? When you're a nurse, you're documenting nonstop. You're going to clean
That's
a
very
wound
true.
and you're going to document. I can't stand that.
Yeah, there's
Oh
a
my
lot
God,
of
I can't
documentation.
stand that.
Yeah.
Well,
I
medicine
love-
has headed towards that too.
I love the one-on-one.
Yeah.
I mean, if you ask me, Tasha, what do you want to do in this world? I will tell you I want to do what I'm doing right now.
Well, you know, because it's interesting what you all are saying. People do get into medicine, honestly, whether you are a doctor or a nurse or any sort of aspect in medicine, CNA, but you do get in because most people, a lot of people, I shouldn't say everybody, but I know people who got in because they wanted to connect with humanity.
Yeah, they want to help.
It gets very difficult as you navigate that. And almost the CNA experience, because it's a little bit forgotten or not observed and scrutinized, it's allowed the real humanity with the patient. Whereas you are correct about documenting and bureaucracy in medicine.
It steers you away.
And the hierarchy. I'm not going to deny that people have a huge ego as you ascend the ladder in medicine, where they think they're above, the patient or above the situation. And that's never healthy. I think it's coming back again to the humble approach. But it's interesting when you were talking, because I thought, well, yes, the CNA actually gets to do something that a lot of people originally wanted to retain in their application of medicine and somehow got derailed because of the way medicine is structured.
Could be financially too for some.
It can.
CNA,
It can very much.
because it's very costly. But you know what? Really and truly, a piece of paper can't tell you who you are.
No, I
Your
agree.
actions speak louder than a piece of paper. So you can have PhDs or anything you want on that paper. And if there's a fire, that paper is gone. What do you have left? Yourself, your soul. And I think that's what people need to watch.
And
Piece
your,
of paper, then
and your
determine who you are.
compassion, as you said, and your ability to connect to other people.
I worked in me choosing hospice to work in hospice was motivated by when I thought about what I really wanted to do. I heard about the job. I was like, it would be good to be there when they're passing or give care when they're passing. But I'm not a good person with dying. And I said that would help me, to handle death better. I used to work with cancer patients when I did medical assistant. And I remember I used to, all their, whenever a patient passed or whatever, their file would come on my desk. And I remember going to the her little place where they would just file the death files and cry. I took up smoking to handle it and all of that. And I was like, I need to handle death better.
I'll tell you a little personal thing. I don't always feel I'm kind of more on the private side, but I do have a story. I thought that I got into palliative care, hospice and palliative care because I could handle it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah, that's what I thought. Until I had a patient a few years ago that we were, the facility or the group I worked for made it very difficult to manage her care. I wasn't allowed to kind of push for run a drip the way I wanted to. And I remember feeling very overwhelmed with despair at that moment, kind of really not okay with the situation. And I realized I'm not okay with it. I'm actually very much the opposite. Every single one of them, if they don't go well, in my mind, from medically managing it, I find I struggle with that. And I agree with you. It's because we don't know at all what's going on. We don't. But you do recognize clinically that there are things you can do to ease pain. I don't believe also, we've talked about this just before, I don't believe in over-medicating and snowing someone. I don't believe in that. I believe in nuanced management at the end, but we're a far cry from that right now because we don't even talk about death, right? But no, I can't say that I'm okay with it. I think it's a very frightening prospect because that's what it is.
I'm still not okay with it.
I'm great with it.
I'm okay with
You
that.
okay with that?
I'm still
I
not
used to
okay
get
with it.
mad.
I'm getting there. I'm better.
You're better.
I'm better because I'm better knowing that I'm going there to make a difference while they're transitioning. I'm better. I've had patients here that I bawled when they pass away. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, every day in my car,
But
I
when
cry
they-
at some point. Sometimes
That's
I had
the
to pull
healthy
over.
release. That is the healthy release. There's got to be a release. And I will tell you, I manage it well because there's a release. If you don't have that and you're absorbing these energies time, day in, day out, you're dealing with very tough
Emotions.
emotions day in, day out.
Yeah.
That is not easy.
I
And
used-
that might be the part where you said smoking. I mean, there's
I
got to
don't
be
do
a
that
release.
anymore.
Well, one thing I can help you
say,
I don't do
out
that anymore.
with death and dying, one thing can help for you to cope with it. The family members, I always have like the kids pick out the last beautiful top or whatever it is they like to see their parents in, and I'll call them in a room and say, hey, do you want to help with the last bath? So that helps with them and also help with me.
But you see, I don't get that. I don't get that opportunity because I go on Friday. I give my patient a nice bath and made them comfortable. And then Monday morning, I'm hearing, oh, such and such passed.
Because the nurse
And I'm
gets
like,
to go when they're
The
passing.
nurse gets that. I don't get that.
And I used to be mad. I used to be like, how could you pass without me? I wanted to hold your hand. I used to get upset at the people
I'm always
because I
there.
wasn't there.
You get the good
I've
part,
seen a lot of
Philomena.
I've seen a lot of death
Yeah.
with hospitals.
I have too, but not since I've been here. I just wish I'd, be able to see it.
So to God's ears, I
Comfort.
guess you'll
Yeah.
get an opportunity to
No,
sit with.
Not too soon.
not too
Not
soon,
too
please. Yeah.
Well,
funny.
is there anything we left unsaid,
I don't
Natasha?
even think
Thanks, Tasha.
so. No, I don't think so.
In really a raw way, we talked about, I wanted you to be open and honest. I want all of you to just speak your minds. Was there anything? I think these discussions, okay, they're for everybody, I guess, but they're also cathartic and they're supposed to be honest. So is there anything that we didn't touch upon? I think you touched upon some incredible points. I am going to walk away from this conversation personally. I already thought of CNAs as being indispensable. I already had that in my mind. I walk away going, okay, there's almost a spiritual calling to this profession where you come into it with a lot of ingredients that other professions could benefit to learn from. The compassion that you talked about, or being humble, or seeing somebody through in intimate moments, or bearing witness to family dynamics that require a lot of patience and tolerance and things like that. They're very nice attributes. So that's what I'm going to walk away with.
I would like to say we have to, of course, right? Tasha has glasses.
Absolutely.
But
it.
I would like to say, I'm hoping people get to see that CNAs are way more than just someone there to clean someone's body.
Yeah.
They're very smart, they're intelligent, they're very educated. How do you judge a fish by the ability to fly? How do you do that? You know what I mean? That doesn't mean they're stupid. That doesn't mean they can't go do what the nurse is doing or the doctor. It's just this is where they are for whatever reason in their world. And a lot of people look down, and I'm not just saying people who are not the family members and so forth, but our peers. They need to know, it's like, I'm here, and I may be we call it the bottom of the barrel. We always say that, we're at the bottom of the barrel, nobody's going to listen, but there's a lot more to these CNAs than what meets the eye.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I
Yeah.
totally agree with you. I mean, that's why I wanted you here. I think that ironically, or not ironically, but just in an interesting fashion, you all have the attributes that are sorely needed in other areas. You do. So that's actually a key message to impart. Wrapping up the discussion, I really appreciate having all of you, Philomena, Kim, Natasha. Thank
It's
you
a
so much
pleasure.
for being here. You all were awesome.